press the Start Meeting button. All right, so this is the Procurement Standards Board meeting for Thursday, May 8th. We do not have a quorum of members present, although today we are not having a vote, and so I don't see that as an impediment to holding up our meeting. We've got a very short agenda here, and so with that, I'm calling the meeting to order. And item number 2 on our agenda here is a public comment period. We don't really have a sign-up sheet like some of the larger meetings, but if anyone would like to take advantage of that, now's your time. Okay, seeing none, public comment period will close. For the last meeting, which I was not back to Metro at that point, there were minutes prepared. I know those were sent out. And so for our members that are present, could I at least have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. And that brings us to item number 4, which is a report from our outgoing purchasing agent, which would be Michelle in his name, who is not going far. She has been promoted to Deputy Director of the Finance Department, and I am thrilled to have been the one to have helped made that. Hello?
Hello. Come on.
Come join us.
Oh, there's... Apologies for being late, everyone.
Not a problem. We waited a little bit of time, and really what we've done, we've called to order, had public comment, although we were a little short on the public to comment on that, and approved the minutes, and we're just having item 4 here, just a report from our outgoing purchasing agent, Michelle, who has been promoted to Deputy Director. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And if it pleases the chair, I would just like to ask if you would take just a moment and perhaps introduce yourself to the board. I think you're new to all of our board members. Do you mind?
I'll be glad to do that, although I don't know how new I am. It's my second time. I was here for the first 2 years of the Cooper administration, and it's jury's out as whether I'm the old new guy or the new old guy being into this role. But I'm the finance director, Kevin Crumbo, and I'm glad to be back here with the O'Connell administration. And one of the things that is chartered to me is to chair this board. And so that brings me here today.
Thank you.
Now the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. This is kind of a bittersweet opportunity for me here to present to all of you. And there's Shannon, to present to all of you my last report as the purchasing agent and chief procurement officer for the city of Nashville, Metropolitan Nashville, Davidson County. There are a number of items. You all are accustomed to this report in terms of report out and status updates related to procurement operations. I will really just bring your attention, and you've got a copy of this report. I'll bring your attention to a couple of highlights that are here related to staffing for this last period since this board last convened. The procurement division is once again fully staffed. We've hired Mr. Harrison Bond, and as a procurement specialist, Mr. Bond is a veteran of the U.S. Army. And he remains in the U.S. Army Reserves, bringing a background in logistics to Metro. Thank you. Sorry I'm late. And we are just extraordinarily happy to have Mr. Bond in the procurement division. We thank him, of course, for his service to our country and to Metro. And with that hire, I'm just really pleased to say that the procurement division is once again fully staffed, which is really important given the volume and the workload that is coming through from various Metro departments. I will also just let you know briefly that you all will recall that the procurement division was living in a space that had been renovated and that had been accommodating a reduced office work condition 2 days a week in the office. More recently, there have been conditions identified with the space that we all used to meet in and loved that have determined that it must be taken offline. That building is offline. And currently, procurement staff are working once again 100% remotely until alternative drop-in spaces identified for staff. And we're working very closely to ensure that that's done, working very closely with the Department of General Services. The major procurements for the period are included in the report, and I'll just draw your attention to that. And then I'd like to move just quickly into the end of the report, which is drawing your attention also to the reports that you've received via email regarding the DBE participation for the period. We continue to experience significant success with our Equal Business Opportunity Program, and we're just really pleased with, the percent increases in utilization that we see, as well as the excellent administration of the program, which is very key to the success of the program under Christopher Wood's leadership. Okay, moving into miscellaneous items on the report. As required by the regulations, I'm noting that there was one protest that was received during the period, and that was for police motorcycles. We held that protest hearing and issued a determination on that, and no appeal was received, so we're in good shape on that. Okay, what I'd like to do next is a little bit different. It's on the last page of your report. As Director Crumbo noted, we do have new leadership in our division of purchases. Mr. Dennis Rowland is here and has been appointed by Mayor O'Connell as the new Chief Procurement Officer and Purchasing Agent for Metro Nashville. And we are going to, I believe, in the agenda, turn things over to him to speak as he chooses. But as we do, I would like to take just a moment of privilege, if I could, and just note that as we do turn the reins of leadership over to a new leader in the role of purchasing agent, I would note that we've done quite a bit of work around procurement reform, and Dennis has committed to continuing that work. I know, I never cry. Well, I do cry, but just not in public. I'm not a nice princess. But this work is just really near and dear to me. I love it. And so I'm pleased that Dennis has, you all pardon me.
And while Michelle gets that together, if I may. Sorry.
Tell me to get it together, because I need to.
She, has done a phenomenal job. I've been on the board, I just realized, since like 2011.
Yeah.
And so you were not the purchasing agent when I first joined, and the work that we did when I first joined the board was very, very different. And it was more about just kind of approving, the reviewing the timeliness of payments. And so having, Michelle be able to take the reins as the purchasing agent and to see the change that she has brought about in the work that we have done has made it a whole lot more meaningful to me, and made me even prouder to be on the board. And I feel very honored to live in a city and be able to serve on a board where I have someone like Michelle who has been so interested in this work. And so kudos to the new deputy director.
Thank you.
As she leaves.
My apologies. I just was kind of overcome on that moment with some emotion. I love the work, and I'm glad to still be able to participate in some fashion in that work. I would just like to note that during my tenure as purchasing agent, we've been very successful in accomplishing a number of objectives. There's a lot of work to do. I'm really excited about having the opportunity to work with Dennis to further that work, and he just brings such a wealth of experience, the background, the knowledge that makes me know that we're going to go leaps and bounds above where we are. Continuous improvement is something that we talk about regularly. So what I would like to just draw your attention to is that during this time, we've created metrics. We've established very specific metrics that this board approved to drive divisional success, metrics that didn't occur in the past. We've facilitated the Procurement Standards Board consideration of and adoption of regulations that establish a minimum expectation around ethics in procurement that didn't exist. We've successfully implemented under the leadership of Christopher Wood the EBO program, which is one of a very few race and gender conscious programs in the country. And we've seen the spending with those Black, brown, women-owned businesses increase on average by about $250 million since the program was implemented. We facilitated the council's consideration and adoption of legislation that adjusted bond requirements for construction projects, and this particularly would allow more smaller disadvantaged businesses to more effectively participate in metro construction projects. We facilitated Metro Council's consideration and adoption of legislation that adjusted our delegated purchasing limits to create additional flexibility for departments and giving them more autonomy to engage in that informal purchasing and delegated purchasing on smaller projects under $25,000 and less. And what that did was really reserve procurement staff to be able to work on more complicated and complex solicitations requiring active competitive solicitations. During that time, leadership in procurement advocated for the funding to support and accomplish professional certifications for procurement staff. We saw staff certifications increase from 15% to now over 80% of that staff being having professional certifications, with 100% of those anticipated over the next 2 years. We also facilitated Metro Council's consideration and adoption of legislation that reformed how the city procures the services of architects and engineers. And we also made that process more streamlined, competitive, equitable, and transparent, which is really important, as that's one of the paramount considerations in government procurement. We created a procurement resource group to serve as a liaison and a resource to support our departmental users. And additionally, we created a centralized hub for departments to service themselves with access to project status, forms, guides, trainings, etc. We have also been fortunate to pilot procurement innovation and reform by participating, in the Leading City Procurement Reform Cohort and Initiative with the Harvard Kennedy School, and we are currently working with the Harvard Kennedy School specifically on the improvement of cycle times for procurement. It's an issue that, we've known about, that we've identified, and we went to the Harvard Kennedy School Leading City Procurement Reform Cohort, and then they came to us afterwards and said, we would like for our graduate students to work with you to help you on an initiative of your choosing, and the cycle time improvement was our choosing. And the last thing that I'll say is that we've put probably about 85% of the elements needed to facilitate the accreditation of the procurement division as an outstanding procurement organization with the National Institute of Government Purchasing. So we're about this close to submitting that application to receive that recognition. So we've done a lot of work. I look forward again to continuing to work with Dennis to further that work and to looking toward the initiatives that he has in store as the new leader for the procurement division. And I appreciate every single person on this board for holding us accountable, for asking tough questions, Dr. Kroom, and expecting the best answers, because at the end of the day, what that did was make us a better procurement organization in total. I'd also like to note that you've received a number of other reports related to prompt pay, related to our DBE utilization via email, and look forward to the opportunity to answer any questions that you may have about those.
Well, with that, I think we can all say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
On this, but that service isn't over, as you well know, right? And so,
may I say something? Michelle, I've been here for 3 years now, and it has been an honor to work with you. Some people have the innate ability to focus on the details and make sure the nuts and bolts are done right and all of that. Other people have the gift of being a visionary leader, and you combine both.
Oh, wow.
Because you make that happen in procurement, and I've seen you do it in multiple ways, and you have inspired the members of this board. So thank you for your service, and I'm glad you're staying close nearby.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it.
Well, before all the accomplishments in purchasing, Michelle's had some other roles here at the Metro government, all of which have been very valuable in our thinking about what our leadership of finance is going to be all about. And so it was just a thrill to promote Michelle to be our Deputy Director for Finance. And so she'll be doing a lot more in a lot more areas across the Metro government, including budgeting, purchasing, and so forth. It's a big role, and I appreciate you stepping into that. You will be sorely missed in the one you are in, but Dennis is obviously coming behind you, and he's next on our agenda here. So, Michelle, thank you for everything that you've done. You won't be too far away, and I'm glad for that.
Thank you.
With that, I will introduce Dennis Rowland, who's been here, I think, like the bull waiting to jump out of this. And the reason I know that, Dennis and I have worked together once before, all the way back to 2004, which we started our jobs then. We were 3 years old as well. But in any event, I was really thrilled through all the procurement that we go through to hire new positions and the HR processes, and we're a government, so we have lots of those. One of the finalists turns out to be Dennis, and I said, I know that guy. Dennis was one of my clients years ago when he was in purchasing at Nissan, a small automobile company some of you may have heard of. And so I was thrilled as we got through the end, and he was a selection of the group for hiring. And so I'm thrilled to welcome Dennis here at the Metro government. I know he's got some huge shoes to fill with Michelle, but I think he's ready to take on that challenge. And so, Dennis, welcome, and glad to hear a little bit about your background, to the extent you want to tell them, and then what direction our first steps are going to be together.
Okay, thank you so much
You're
for the
welcome.
introduction. As you mentioned, huge shoes to fill, backing Michelle. Honestly speaking, I wouldn't have taken the position had she not been there, right? Because coming in to government new from the private sector, I knew it was going to be totally different than what I was accustomed to. So my background, 27-year career at Nissan North America, virtually all over North America, Mexico, Canada, Japan, a lot of different positions, primarily in manufacturing and procurement. So a lot of global experience. Retired from there in 2019, became an independent consultant, primarily consulting procurement strategy, creating procurement organizations for different companies, primarily working with KPMG on that type work. This opportunity was sort of interesting for me when it came about because, honestly speaking, I'd been building a house, not necessarily thinking about what my next steps were, and lo and behold, during the interview process between Michelle and Taya and Kevin Brown, fantastic feeling that I got with working with these people and in the interview process, and you could tell that the things that Michelle and Taya were looking for, that I had the skill sets to fill, right? So it was almost like a perfect fit. And so, Michelle reminds me every day that no doubt she's taken the organization to great levels, during her tenure, and now she expects me to take it further, right? So this is going to be really interesting. So I'm looking to a lot of the process improvements, no doubt in first meeting with Kevin, cycle times are big. We want to improve the process. We want to improve the user groups. The information that comes to us speeds us up. We want to, basically the supply base, making sure that we're tied into the appropriate supply base that we need to. Honestly speaking, coming from a large corporation into Metro, Michelle and the team have created, to me, it's a world-class DBE and EBO program. It blew me away whenever I ask a lot of questions about it because I've always been very interested in that type of work. And so now that I see the program and see the way it's established, I can't say enough good things about the talent that Michelle's put together on her team. And so, as I mentioned before, my goal is to take this talent, take the skill sets that I have, take some of the weaknesses we have in our organization and in our process, and basically strengthen those to do the improvements that we need to do. So thank you very much.
Well, welcome on board. I will just say here as part of some closing remarks that having been in the turnaround and restructuring world most of my career, worked with a lot of purchasing groups because that is where a lot of the money flows from. That's where you can make a lot of difference. And when I see organizations that are on a decline, that is, one way to manage purchasing, and it's really its challenge of its own. There are even greater challenges when we start to look at growing organizations because the needs change remarkably. Purchasing is something that typically is, whether it's a corporation or a government in this case, burdened with a lot of rules, a lot of procedures and so forth that make those very challenged as it grows because not everything quite fits. And so I think for as long as the city continues to grow, particularly at the pace that we seem to be on right now, we're going to be continually challenged. We're going to be continually looking for improvements and so forth. And those don't always come along as quickly as all of our stakeholders would like, but that's true for any large organization I've ever been a part of. And I think Dennis would affirm we've seen this particularly in the automotive industry when there's been huge waves of volumes, most recently for electric vehicles where purchasing folks have never had to purchase batteries quite like that, right, or cables quite like that, and so it puts a lot of pressure on it and creates some challenges for us. So I think for as long as we're here and as long as we're growing, we're going to continue to have just an ongoing improvement process in order to match up to that. So thrilled to have Dennis on board. Thrilled to have Michelle still with us to help with that. And at this point, I'll open it up if there's any questions or anything anybody would like to talk about before we close the meeting.
I do have a question, and I don't know if it's for Michelle or for Dennis. You all's trade organization or whoever your professional organization is, with the new OMB circulars that's coming out, the updates, and I do know that there are some updates to procurement. Is it you all's trade association? Who is it that you all work with to get updates on whatever the changes are to the circulars that impact procurement? For those of us who are grant funded, that's a big piece for us as well.
Yes, it would be the National Institute of
Okay, I
Government
was just
Purchasing.
curious.
Yeah, they provide quite a bit of information to all of the users about changes that are impacting the various ways that we buy from various funding sources, whether that's grant funded. When ARPA first came, was a thing, they had huge sessions for the users to understand how to effectively manage procurement and comply with all of the rules that were established for that. So yes, the NIGP would be the source of information for that.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Anyone else with some remarks before we wrap it up? All right. Thank you again for your service. Welcome on board. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
We'll stop meeting.